Hey there, friends. Like a lot of you guys, it takes a lot these days for an AR-15 to excite me, right? I'm sure it does you guys too. I mean, once you've shot 100 AR-15s, you've kind of felt the variation and the changes and the different nuances that each one of them provides, right? CMMG recently came out with this, the BR4. I'm excited again.
This BR4 by CMMG is one of the coolest firearms that I've laid my hands on in quite some time. The setup of this thing, giving it that old school feel and kind of a new world design as far as the different characteristics of it. I love the combination, the kind of hybrid feel between the two. The 870 stock on this thing gave me that really throwback feel from back in the day of the type of rifle that I used to carry. You'll notice the redesign of the upper and lower receiver tends to bring the trigger guard further back. Notice how the old design had the magwell and trigger guard butted right up against one another. Here, you'll see that that trigger guard is much further back to allow for the grip from that old school 870 stock to allow your index finger to at least reach within that trigger guard. Notice how the trigger guard would be way too far forward if they did not redesign this lower to allow you to reach that, again, from this old school stock. This right here is my old school Remington Sportsman 58. You can see where between the stock and the marrying of the trigger guard receiver area, that all is in real close proximity. So again, it has that old familiar feel to it as I grew up. Depending on the model, the BR4 ships with the CMMG zeroed muzzle brake. Oddly enough, it seemed like the front end stayed down between that, and I felt like I had forward weight to this thing, even though it only comes in at 8 pounds. And as with all Descent receivers, this one does have the front side charging handle. This is very nice. I like this configuration. Just always been a fan of this since CMMG came out with this. It is ambidextrous. Obviously, you can flip that over to the other side if you prefer right side charging. Now, with the additional space between your trigger guard and the magazine, of course, you're going to have a longer reach with your trigger finger on the right-hand side. CMMG thought this through, and they put a left side release so that if you're grabbing the magazine with your left hand, you have the opportunity at that point to use your left thumb in the same motion to release that magazine and drop it free. My BR4 shipped with a 10-round Magpul magazine, but obviously any standard 30-round magazine like the translucent Mission First Tactical that you see right here, or you can use one of Mission First Tactical's own 10-round magazines. Either way, this thing will accept every single standard type of AR-15 magazine. Another cool throwback, the old familiar cross-bolt safety.
So friends, this BR4 by CMMG, talk about a lot of fun. It kind of brings me back a little bit to my younger days because, I mean, the AR style weapon was not introduced to me at an early age. I grew up with a standard rifle, stock style rifle. Even if it was in semi-auto, it was still in some kind of a format very similar to the BR4. So just the layout of it brings me back. Whenever I'm retracting the magazine and putting one in, I use the release on the left-hand side because it's a one-hand motion. Because again, you need some ET fingers to get out front and get that thing engaged. But the layout has that 1970s, 1980s feel for me when I was growing up. I love the 870 stock on this thing. It's just got a cool feel to it. I wonder if somebody made a variation of it with a Remington 870 wooden, like a really nice walnut wooden stock on it, and then design a foregrip for it as well. Instead of being a tactical foregrip like on this thing, if you could do a wooden combination, I wonder how cool that would look. That'd probably be pretty neat. Do kind of a bluing or a really dark navy blue on the actual metal to give it that old school feel to it with that new school ring. But I really like this thing. It's a lot of fun. I like the fact that even at 8 pounds, it feels like there's more firearm out front. I do like front end weight. Look, guys, we're not carrying firearms into combat. Most of us are not. This is usually for home defense, playing around the house, going out to the range, but you're not carrying this thing on 5-mile hikes, right? You're not carrying it for 12 hours a day out in the middle of the desert. If you were, there might be a little bit of discomfort after carrying it that long. Personally, I like a little bit extra weight because what it does is it makes your transition between shots a little more stable, as you guys obviously know from a physics standpoint. Too light out front makes it too erratic, too easy to move that thing around. That's why some of your more, I guess, speedier competition handguns have tungsten weights and different things in it to kind of weigh that thing down. Again, it keeps you from being wobbly out front and steadies everything out front. So I like that feel of additional weight out front. Again, at 8 pounds, I've added a little bit of weight out front with a weapons light. It's just, that's something to me that if it's mental for me, fine. I felt like I was transitioning between targets very, very smooth without a lot of jumpiness to it. Of course, the sight that I'm using is my Gideon LPVO. I love this thing. I loved an etched reticle on a firearm. I'm not a big proponent of totally being reliant on battery life to be able to allow me to engage my target. I like an etched reticle, and this thing has it. In fact, the entire day I was out here, I never turned the red dot on. I used the etched reticle, and I use the light as a backup if I need it. Maybe nighttime I would use one on a super low setting, but again, the etched reticle, that's my thing. Now for my friends out there in New York, Washington, and Illinois, instead of this being the BR4, you might consider this the BR not for you, because you're not going to be able to get them in those states. This is something that 47 other states you can access this thing and get it. The configuration of it takes away all those super dangerous, scary things that make one of these things illegal in your particular state. So again, only those 3 states is it the BR not for you, but it's the BR for you in all the other 47 states. You're gonna find this thing in multiple Cerakotes as well, multiple calibers as well. I got it in 5.56 because this is funny. When I talked to Mike at CMMG, I told him, I said, you know what, out of all the CMMG rifles that I've acquired over the years, I don't think I have one in 5.56. And I said, I know that's not y'all's bread and butter, but I'd like to have a CMMG in 5.56. So I got it in 5.56, and I'm glad I did because I'm familiar with it. I have the magazines for it as well. I love the translucent Mission Burst Tactical magazine, but I already have so much stuff for 5.56, not to mention the rounds. I thought, why not? But what's funny is I started digging in my gun room, and I actually found, I don't even know what year this is from. This is an old CMMG rifle in 5.56 that I found in my gun room, and I was like, I don't even remember buying this thing. I can tell it's never been shot. It's just one of those things where I just stumbled across it. So I guess technically now I have 2 CMMGs in 5.56, but they are available in a multitude of other calibers, and of course Cerakote finishes. Hey, take your pick. There's tons of them to choose from. A lot of fun to shoot. I'm gonna keep this thing set up just like I have it with the Gideon LPVO on it. I love this type of sling on there. I also like putting it on the opposite side. I'm sure there's some technical way and reason why you're supposed to do that or not supposed to do that. I like it because putting it on the passenger side of the firearm, it pulls it and keeps it closer and more snug to my body so that I can walk and the barrel's not gonna be slapping me in the pills down below. I can keep the barrel kind of off to the side. So I like this whole setup. I'm gonna leave this just like it is. This might be my new home defense rifle. I do have a shotgun that is my go-to, but this might be the one that I use for if there's crazy stuff like looters during hurricane season, just saying, this might be the one that I grab in the event that comes up. If you happen to find yourself on the place online where CMMG sells their firearms, which is their website, I'm not sending you there, I'm just saying, wink, wink, YouTube, this is for you. If you happen to get over there, there's a code that I've heard of that a guy that looks just like me has. It's FTATF. If you use that code, you will find yourself almost like treasure. You'll be getting some money back. What that means is use my code and save some money. Guys, a lot of fun. The BR4 by CMMG. I enjoyed this thing. This is a keeper. This moved to the top of my list. This is the first time in a very long time that I've been excited about an AR style weapon that's not technically AR style. Oh, by the way, the BR in BR4, it's made for a guy like me. I'm not a boomer, but the BR is for boomer. And I like it because I'm just outside of that boomer class, but it sure feels good to me.
I don't understand the point that you're making.
God save the Queen, man.
I'm sorry, I thought this was America. He's over.